Welcome to Speaking Holistically, the podcast that explores the power of alternative medicine, natural healing, and homeopathic solutions to help you achieve true wellness. Each week, Dr. Jen and Amy G dive into the world of holistic health, discussing researched, time-tested remedies with expert insights from Dr. Jen, as well as real-life stories from patients to empower you to take charge of your health. So if you're ready to embrace a more natural path to wellness, let's start speaking holistically, because true healing begins from within. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Speaking Holistically. I'm your co-host, Amy G. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Dr. Jen. And we have another Tales from the Office episode. I'm so excited. I love hearing about these. Okay, so what do you have for us today?
So I have a 73-year-old male who came in from Colombia. And he was told that, well, he's told a lot of stuff. Yeah, we'll get into some of the other stuff later.
He lives in Colombia?
He lives in Colombia.
Okay.
So he has a daughter that lives here. And so he comes in a couple of times a year generally to see her. And this time he's decided to stay for 3 months. His doctors down there told him that he needs to have surgery. So I had him bring all the MRI reports and everything that he had done there so I could take a look at them. I read Spanish better than I speak it at this point in my life because I haven't used Spanish regularly for so long that I just pull whatever out I need to, but I don't say that yo hablo español. So
you're pretty
I don't
good.
say that.
I think you're pretty good at speaking.
I get by for sure, but at the end of the day, I would not go, oh, I'm fluent, you know. So, but I do read way better and understand. I almost said entiendo. I understand more than I probably can speak and conjugate verbs. Let's be real. So I read the reports. And he does have stenosis, which means a narrowing of the canal. And he also has a labrum tear. And so he's got a lot of hip pain on the right side. And he says he's got pain going down the leg, which is either piriformitis or sciatica. Everybody calls it sciatica regardless of actually what it is. Even a lot of doctors like, oh, it's sciatica. I'm like, it could be piriformitis, but it gives basically the same type of symptoms. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, he came and he's like, oh, they want me to have surgery. And I was like, let's see what we can do. So I saw him a couple of days ago and adjusted him. And like I said, I'm a deep adjuster. Like we ain't playing. This is old school chiropractic. Get in, get it fixed, get him out of there. You know, it's like, I just very, very deep. So,
yeah, you do.
He let out some audible, verbiage. And
we all have
100%. And so my normal line is, well, you'll like me better tomorrow. So when you're not in so much pain. So I adjusted him and he's like, I still have pain down the side, and he's rubbing along his leg and his hip and stuff at his femoral head area. So right at where the hip goes. Well, we don't really have a hip. I call it a hip and everybody else calls it a hip, but you ask somebody to point to their hip, they'll point to 10 or 15 different places. So it's basically your upper leg bone where it connects into the socket or into the acetabulum there. So, so he's like, I still have nerve pain down here. And I was like, that's okay. I'm like, there's still inflammation. Those nerves are still being pinched off.
Yeah, everything has to calm down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and a lot of people don't realize this, but let's say it's the sciatic nerve and, most of the other nerves too. The sciatic nerve pierces through those muscles. And then when the muscles are inflamed, it puts pressure on it. So it can be coming from the inflammation from the muscles, but then why are the muscles inflamed? And it also could be because things are misaligned, which is putting pressure on that. And then how much is coming from the stenosis? Looking at his MRIs, I'm like, I'm not sure you need surgery because people can go decades with tears and not have any symptoms. And other people have a minor little tiny tear and they're in miserable, horrible pain.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes the structure doesn't impact the physiology like we'd expect. I've seen perfect x-rays where I'm like, holy cow, these people are in terrible pain. And I've seen other x-rays where I'm like, how did you even walk in here? And they're like, oh no, I didn't have any pain. So it doesn't always, there's really not always that correlation. Anyway, I adjusted him deeply as I generally do most people. And I'm not going to adjust an hour-old newborn the same way I'm going to adjust a 350-pound, athlete. So it's all appropriate as far as the pressure, the timing, and what we're adjusting for sure. I told him, I said, listen, at this point I'm running behind. There's so much I have to do with this gentleman. And I schedule plenty of time for my patients, but sometimes it's like, and everybody knows I'm not back there just chit-chatting and hanging out. Like I'm busting my butt the entire time. Yeah. So I dry needled him, which we'll go into what that is on a separate episode and kind of get into that a little bit more, because there's some states that like California only allows dry needling from medical doctors, which most of them don't do that. In fact, I hadn't even heard of it until I left the state. And acupuncturists, but acupuncturists do acupuncture, so they're not going to technically do dry needling generally, which it's similar, but we'll get into that. So I did dry needles in his lumbar area and his low back, as well as into the glutes. And then I used Saluma, which is a red light therapy. It's actually red light, blue light, and near infrared.
Yeah, so, you've done that on me before.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing tool. So a lot of people I know are buying red lights off Amazon for $20. And I'm like, yeah, there's literally just red lights that are not actually therapeutic at all, because somebody somewhere in another country decided like, oh, these people buy it. They'll buy anything if we put it on Amazon. So anyway, so I really only use the company Biophotos, which makes Saluma, which is Celluma. And they have tons of research behind them. And I've used them for 15, 17 years, something like that.
A long time now.
Yeah, a long time before red light therapy got super popular and everybody's doing it. So this machine is unbelievable, and it is FDA approved for home use. And I could tell you a billion stories about how well this sucker works. And the cost is, it's obviously higher than what you're going to find for $20 on Amazon, but it functions well and it'll last you a very long time. So anyway, I don't know why I'm getting into that as much as I am, but I decided to do that over the needles. So it warms up those needles, but it also helps the tissue, the skin, and way deep down into the tissue below that. It's not just a superficial heat. So we ended up doing that, and I left him there for about 20 minutes and I have my staff checking on him, and came back in and took everything off of him, pulled the needles out. And I said, okay, how do you feel? And he goes, I have absolutely no pain.
Whoa.
And he still had pain after the adjustment, but it was lessened, but it instantly, he was like, no, I have no pain. And I said, okay, if you're going to be here for 3 months, like, let's do this and get you fixed before you have to head back to Colombia. Yeah. So, but I mean, if you look at the research of back surgeries, very small percentage of them go well.
That's right.
And go well long-term. Mm-hmm. And even the surgeons will tell you that. I mean, they'll be straight up. Most of them will be straight up with you. Some of them will be like, no, this will be life-changing. And I've seen so many failed back surgeries, it's not even funny. Yeah. And so if you can avoid it at all costs, I would. If you can't, obviously there's a time and place for surgery, but they're telling this guy he needs surgery, and I'm thinking not. So yeah, so he walked out of my office thrilled, and his daughter actually came in today, and she said, no, he took the dog for a walk yesterday. He felt great. So yeah. So it's pretty cool. So there's definitely, once again, don't just accept an answer because somebody told you something that they believe to be true, or it's what they do. It's like, if you take your car to have your tires looked at, they're going to probably be like, oh, you need new tires, or you need a rotation, or, you don't know. If you don't know what you're looking at, you're going to believe whoever tells you whatever.
Yeah. So, very true. I mean, I think that is, first of all, am I surprised that you had another miracle in your office? No. But I mean, I know you have saved a lot of people from the surgery route. I know you have. I think that when people go and see their doctor, they get scared into surgery and they don't know what other options are available to them, and that there's another route they could take potentially. Not saying that it's going to 100% work for everybody, but I think just knowing that people like you exist who are going to go, well, there's another way to come at this, and maybe you don't have to have surgery. Let's try this first. And I would say most people are going to be more than willing to try the alternative route, because surgery is scary and you have to recover from it, and it's incredibly disruptive to your body. Your body is being opened up and manipulated, and then it has to figure out how to function in that new way now that something's been changed inside of it. And it's a trauma. And so to be able to avoid that is just, I mean, who doesn't want to do that? So
Well, and the painkillers. I mean, how many people have been addicted to painkillers after they were stuck on something, or their kid got into it and ended up an addict because they were trying to see what their parents felt like on those pharmaceuticals. So it's not just, there's definitely a slippery slope to all of this stuff. And, I had another patient who had come to me and she had foot drop and a whole bunch of other stuff, which neurologically tells me there's something going on. So like when she was walking, her foot would just, slap because she doesn't have the control. So we know that that's coming from the lower back nerves, basically. Okay. And so I told her, I said, yeah, this doesn't look so good. It's coming from like the S1 area, and did all the orthopedic tests on her. And I was like, yeah, you're probably well, I adjusted her 4 or 5 times and got 0 change, which doesn't happen usually. So I told her, I said, you're probably a candidate for back surgery, to be very honest with you. And let's look at this and this. And she found a surgeon that she felt comfortable with. And I halfway joke that if you like your surgeon, they're probably not a good surgeon. So no, because the really good ones generally are super pompous and are total jerks. And they're pompous because they're good at what they do, but they have terrible bedside manner.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you like your doctor, they're probably a terrible surgeon. I mean, it could be that they're both, but generally, like, I'll take the pompous jerk before I take somebody I really like. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
that's funny. You say that because my mom's surgeon that took the mass out of her, the benign mass out of her brain, I couldn't wait to not talk to him. He wasn't pompous though. He was just so short and
probably like on the spectrum,
so
I mean,
cold.
those guys are so intelligent. Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, and just callous, just cold, and I thought, I don't want to talk to him anymore. And he was an amazing surgeon. So you are right about that. You're right. That's funny.
When I said on the spectrum, there's probably parents out there like, that's not very nice. And I'm like, no, it's not that it's not very nice. I mean, I've dealt with kids and even people in my own family who can't read the room. They're very literal and they don't have time for small talk. It's like, okay, yeah, bye. Like they wouldn't even say bye if they didn't have to. They'd just hang up. So, and not that they're jerks, it's just that they don't have the same warm fuzzies sometimes that other people do. But yeah. So, and like I said, I'm sure there's a great surgeon out there that has a great personality and who's amazing, but at the end of the day, so she went and had the back surgery done, didn't do what I thought needed to happen. I'm not a surgeon, but I told her this is probably how this needs to be managed. So see what you can do. And I always encourage people to meet with 3 providers. Don't ever pick the first one just by seeing one person. Yeah. You wouldn't date generally wouldn't date one person and marry them. Some people do, because it's the right thing, but for the most part, that's not how that works. Yeah. So anyway, the surgery that she had done didn't work, didn't do anything, and literally nothing. It was like, he just cut the skin and made stitches? Like literally nothing. There was no change. Oh
God.
And so I said, look, you need to go to somebody else and get this fixed because this is fixable. She went back to the same guy who said he would do it for free. So that was the right price for her. So she went back. He did it again, apparently. I don't know what he did. And 0 change again. And I'm like, I've never seen 0 change. Like I've seen small change for a little while. I've seen things get worse, but I've never seen 0 change. Yeah. So anyway, so she's now living with that, and her foot is now purple because there's lack of blood supply to it, and she's in her 40s.
Oh my God.
So yeah, and still has the foot drop. And I'm like, that's not a good option either. So I always tell people, like, get 3 opinions, even with childbirth. Like, don't meet with the first OBGYN and be like, yeah, that's who I want to support me at the most important time of my child's life, literally the most important time. I always tell people, meet with 2 OBGYNs if you're thinking about doing an OBGYN, and meet with 1 midwife so you can see the difference in care. And just see. And the same thing goes for surgeons. Like, look for people who maybe have a different situation or a different take on it, and what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Not who you like the best.
You've always encouraged, I mean, that's always been your message, and it's something that sticks in my brain, whether it's me, not that I've ever had to have like surgery, but my family is when it comes into play. So my dad had an enlarged prostate, pretty enlarged, and it had been kind of getting bigger
I'm sure he's thrilled that you're sharing this with the world.
over the years. You know what? This is so common. I'm going to bring it up when we talk about prostates. You know I will. The prostate episode is getting talked
Hey,
about.
maybe we can get your dad to show up on here.
God. Uh, he actually probably would do it. As close as I am to him, he would do it for me. He would. But
You're like, I share with you?
yes, yes, you still remember that. I'll talk about that. I need to explain that really quick. So in my family, when my sister was little, she didn't understand the concept of sharing. So when she wanted a bite of something my mom or dad was eating, she would say, "I share with you," because she thought that meant give me a bite instead of she's supposed to share. So in my family, that's what we say to each other. If we want a bite of their food, we say, "I share with you." It's like our code. So, and Jen remembers that because we lived together. Um, but it's so funny that
Well, yeah.
it's so funny. I love that. Yeah, we still say it to each other to this day. But his urologist was like, "Oh, I'm going to have to do this surgery to cut down and it wasn't cancerous, or he didn't have prostate cancer. He just had an enlarged prostate. But again, very common problem with men, very, very common. But the guy was basically like, well, this is how I do it. He was an older, much older surgeon. And he was basically like, I have to cut you from stem to stern to do this procedure. And my dad, obviously that spooked him pretty bad. And so my mom called me and I said, just wait, let me do a little research because I'm sure there's another surgical technique here to deal with enlarged prostate. So let me just do some homework. So my parents don't live, well, they're in a different state, but they're like 5 hours away from the Mayo Clinic. So I found a female surgeon who was doing this green light laser procedure that goes through the rectum, and the light basically takes out the enlarged part of the prostate. There is no incision per se. And it was a 1-day procedure. They drove home the next day. My dad, to this day, hasn't had any issues at all and has done incredibly well. And it was the right thing for him. And he didn't have to have a major surgery. And he still talks about it to this day because the alternative was pretty scary. And then in my family, my uncle didn't know about this option, had the traditional surgery done to remove the enlarged prostate, and had incontinence and all kinds of problems after this traditional procedure, which is what my dad would have had. So do your homework, look at the options that are available. That's what I did for my dad, and it was life-changing for him. He didn't have to do, who knows what problems he'd be living with today if he had done the traditional surgery and gone with this. And the surgeon he was talking to, that's the only way the guy ever did this procedure to deal with enlarged prostates. It's the only way. So anyway, that's I just encourage people, be your own advocate, do your homework.
Technology is changing so fast that even for me to keep up with all of the procedures available out there is impossible. And I used to be able to. I read medical research every day, constantly keeping up on things, constantly educating myself. Patients will bring things in and say, "Hey, have you heard of this?" And they give me another damn acronym, I'm going to freak out because I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that means anymore. Like I'm good with words because I'm old, but like, let me see what that actually means. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that is. You know what I mean? Or whatever. But I did same thing. I had a patient, I've had quite a few patients in the last couple of years with prostate issues, and they choose whatever care that they want to do. Some people will do what I've asked them to do. Other people will not do what I've asked them to do. And not that I've asked them, but the options I've given them. When they're like, "No, I'm going to do this," I'm like, that's fine. Like, that's your choice. It doesn't mean I don't have to live with their body when they're 80s, but I want them to have all the information. And I always tell people, if you don't have all the information, you can't make an educated decision.
Exactly.
You have no choices. If you don't know what your choices are, you don't have any.
Yes.
So trying to give my patients more information on every subject matter is super important. But yeah, I had one patient recently, last year actually, he had his prostate removed, and he's in his 50s. I want to say his early 50s. And he literally has to wear a diaper all the time because he can't control his urine at all.
Oh God, that is horrible.
He doesn't have any control over it. So he just pees all day long. And he works outside. He works outside. He's got a job where he's outside on his hands and knees, he's standing up, he's doing all sorts of things. And I can't even imagine what that's going to be like in the summer, trying to wear a diaper in that type of weather. Now, did he have other choices that he could have made? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, we won't know, but at the end of the day, definitely looking for alternatives, regardless of what it is, and making sure that you know every option. Because at the end of the day, your surgeon, your doctor is not going home with you. They're not hanging out with you. They're not your friend. They're doing a job you hired them to do. And if they don't do a job that you wanted, you live with the ramifications of it for the rest of your life. I don't care if it's childbirth. I don't care if it's dealing with a prostate. I don't care whether it's back surgery. They don't deal with you at all ever again. You've got to make those choices, and you've got to take the personal responsibility. You're responsible for the outcome, really. And a lot of people want to put it on the doctors, which is why their malpractice insurance is so high, which is part of the reason medicine costs so much. And it's not so much that they're even collecting all that money, and sometimes they are collecting quite a bit of it, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you look up what the malpractice rates are for different physicians, I mean, I challenge every one of you to go look it up. I pay about $800 a year for my malpractice insurance, and that's based on statistical risk. It's cheaper for me to practice all year long than it is for me to drive my car with no accidents and no tickets.
That's amazing. Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable, but go look up what your OBGYN is paying, look up what your neurosurgeon is paying, and that's all based on statistical risk. So that'll tell you where the safety is. And there's a lot of people who end up suing for different things. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying at the end of the day, you're responsible for the outcome because you have to live with your body. They don't. They might pay you money, but at the end of the day, if you're paralyzed or you are peeing yourself all day long for the next 30 years, I don't care if you get $100,000 settlement. It's not gonna do anything,
No, and I've mentioned this before, but our bodies, like, that's the only home you get to live in when you're on this earth. So protect it, advocate for it, do your homework, make sure you're making the right decisions for your body, because you don't get another one. You can't go down the street and trade it in. So yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Dr. Jen. I love these episodes, and I'm sure our listeners do too. So thank you for sharing your patient stories, your office tales. We really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you want to join our school community, if you haven't done so before, I'll put the link down below in the show notes. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, bye-bye.
That wraps up another episode of Speaking Holistically. Thank you for listening. We hope today's conversation gave you new insights and inspiration to take charge of your health. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, be sure and join the Speaking Holistically school community by clicking the link in the show notes. There, you'll get access to daily podcast episodes, weekly live Q&As, educational content, and so much more. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, be well, stay curious, and keep speaking holistically.